Skyrim. Everyone loves Skyrim. And if you don't, you've been living under a rock. There's many different playstyles in Skyrim. You can be a mage, you can be a warrior, or you can be a thief, and there's still so many other playstyles that you can do. Now what if you played as a thief, but you could only use stolen items that you come across? This means anything that says take, or that you buy, or that you get given to you as a quest reward, you can't use it. There's some rules that I want to cover before we get into the playthrough. Rule number 1 is, obviously, I can't use anything that isn't stolen, except I can buy lockpicks from Tanelia in the Thieves Guild. Rule number 2 is it has to be played on legendary difficulty. Rule number 3 is I'm allowed to take quest rewards, or else the game would literally be unbeatable. Like, you need to take the Golden Claw and the Dragonstone to progress through the main story. And the win condition is I need to defeat Alduin. So let's see, is it possible to beat Skyrim using only stolen items? Our story begins how any other Skyrim story begins, as a prisoner. I chose Argonian and called him a fitting name, Still Sweet Rolls. Our execution was inevitable when Alduin actually saved me. I went with Ralof, as I'm not a heathen, but I couldn't take any of the items in the first dungeon as none of them were marked as steal. I equipped my heal spell, then hid and attacked the Imperials from behind while Ralof took the brunt. Ralof touched some Imperial booty and opened the door for me. I know I said earlier that I'm not allowed to use quest rewards, but Ralof gave me some lockpicks, and to me, it's not a big deal that I keep them and use them. I tried conquering my arachnophobia, but these spiders were straight out of Hogwarts Forest. I snuck past a sleepy bear and then made my way out into Skyrim's open world. I ran straight for Riverwood. Not because that's where the quest takes me, but that's the closest place where I could actually steal some items. Along the way, I came across the Guardian Stones and I chose the Thief Stone. I decided to hop over the river and head for Anissa's shack, where I could steal some items. I stole an empty wine bottle, she tried to give it back to me, and then I dropped it right in front of her face. I grabbed a longbow, read a skill book, and then headed straight towards Riverwood. I came across Talscore the Wanderer. My first instinct was to try and pickpocket him. I tried to steal a stamina potion, which failed, so I ran for my life. When I reached Riverwood, I went straight to Gerda's house so that I could steal all of her items before we became friends. I stole everything of value and then went to Faendal's house to do the same thing, and I found a bow, which was nice. I then went into the Riverwood Trader, went upstairs to steal from the chest, and dragged some potions upstairs as well, right under Lucian's nose. I then went into the inn, and then went into Delphine's room. We played open and closey with the door, so I hid behind the door to steal from her chest. I then went into Alvor's house and found a full set of iron armor, and then went into Sven's house and stole from his chest as well. I then spoke to Gerda and she told me to go to Whiterun, so I kitted up and headed along the way. On my travels, I came across a wolf, which wasn't really any problem, and then continued the short journey to Whiterun. Got some convenient one-handed training on a giant along the way. I then thought it would be a great idea to enter Nazim's house. I spotted some sus-looking boiled treats, and then stole some potions and gold. I was nearly at Whiterun, but I wanted to make a quick stop inside the Whiterun stables. I got caught stealing while I was inside, and it made a Whiterun guard aggro right onto me, so I ran, and ran, and ran, but he just kept following me. I made it to Dragon's Reach, surprisingly without getting caught. Spoke to the Jarl, and then turned around to see the guard was still on my ass. So I dodged him around the table and ran straight outside. I tried hiding behind this house, but he was not having any of that. So I ran to the carriage just outside of Whiterun and hired it to go to Riften. The guard at the Riften gate tried to swindle me, but I told him you can't swindle a swindler. Brynjolf called me poor and then gave me a job. So I accepted his job and then stole some armor from the armorer's shop. I unfortunately got caught and screamed, "You can't catch me alive!" as I ran outside the front gate. Guards were persistent and chased me for a while, but luckily a wolf distracted them for me. I continued east and came across a few packs of wolves. I came across some companions which were not too happy with me. I presume this was because of my bounty in Whiterun. I then came across some more wolves and headed around the backside of Riften towards the Shadowstone, which I ran up, accepted, and ran away. I then went back to Riften and the guards seemed to be okay with me. I spoke to Brynjolf and he didn't seem to mind that I was a horrible thief, as he still told me about the Thieves Guild. I stole some more things around Riften and then headed towards the Ratway. With the Shadowstone active and my character invisible, I snuck past the enemies in the Ratway. I killed a skeever and then tried to run past this fella who did a WWE suplex kill move on me. I tried again, but this time I ran straight past him through his little room, ran past the lowlife and entered the Ragged Flagon. He wasn't too happy about me calling him a lowlife, so he followed me inside. Luckily, my Thieves Guild buddies helped me take him out, but apparently I got a hit on one of them because they took me out quicker than the Sunday washing. The next time around, I did nothing and let them take out the lowlife. Got a quest from Brynjolf to receive some money from some people around town. I'm not cool enough for the secret entrance yet, so I made my way back through the Ratway, smashed a Dwemer artifact, grabbed the Debella statue and threatened this lady that I would chuck it down a well. And then with the last contract, for some reason, all I had to do was just talk to her and she gave me the money. Made my way back through the Way of Rats, handed in my quest to Brynjolf as a Ratway nerd tried to take me out with his bow. But the Thieves Guild don't have any problems with pest control, so they took out the rat. I made my way through the very secret Thieves Guild entrance and then spoke to Mr. Mercer. I went to Tanelia to sell some of my items, and she gave me some Thieves Guild armor and I yeeted that shit straight out my inventory. With the Thieves Guild acquired and I now had the ability to buy lockpicks and sell my stolen gear, I was in a pretty good place. But I was still lacking decent gear. I knew of a decent bow that I could get in Whiterun, so I headed to Dragon's Reach. Now that I'm with the Thieves Guild, I can use this to swindle the guards. I spoke to Farengar and got the quest to retrieve the Dragonstone. Made my way into the Temple of Kinnereth to steal some health potions. I went into Jorvaska, went into the basement, and picked the lock on this display case to steal the Elven bow. I wasn't happy that Brynjolf knew that I was light on the pockets, so I decided to go around town and steal from some strong boxes. Went into the Battlepawn's home, got busted by a kid, so I ran straight outside. Now that I had some loot, I fast travelled back to the Thieves Guild to sell off some of it and buy myself some lockpicks. As I was in Riften, I thought the Blackbriar Manor would have some valuable loot, so I went on inside. I went downstairs, went in this room, shut the door, and this lady came on in and just her spider senses tingled and she spotted me. So I left the manor, picked the lock again, and went straight back in. New plan, I went upstairs this time. Stole an oh so succulent sweet roll. I went downstairs, picked this locked door, and found a Black Sacrament site. Let me know in the comments section if Maven Blackbriar is involved in any quests in the Dark Brotherhood. I then went to the Blackbriar Meadery, stole some of their mead, and found a conveniently placed coin purse. I went to some more shops around town, like this potion shop, stole some potions and some more gold. I headed to the Jarl's quarters next, as that seemed like a place where there'd be some pretty good loot. And oh god, there was some good loot, like this Elven War Axe, and of course you can't forget the sweet rolls. I also got an Orcish dagger and some steel armor. Now that I had some decent loot, I felt combat ready, so I continued my quest for the Dragonstone. The bandits outside were absolutely no match, and same goes for the ones inside. I then tried to level up my pickpocketing on this bandit, which didn't work, so we had a duel, and then I solved this puzzle which was made for a 3-year-old. Harnessed my Thieves Guild pest control skills. However, giant spiders were not in my job description. I outranged the spider like I was a UFC champion. Did a favour for everyone with arachnophobia. Tried to pickpocket the claw off of Alvor, but upon doing so, it would just make me speak to him, so instead, I took him out. I grabbed the gold and this doesn't look as big as I remember claw. Disrespecting the Draugr by waking them up and then taking them out with the traps that was supposed to protect them. Created some deadly fumes by burning some ancient Draugr hair. Taunted a Draugr into his inevitable demise. His friend thought it looked fun, so he wanted to try too. Faced an enemy which on legendary difficulty feels like a mini-boss. This Draugr heard of my famous taunts, so he wanted to give it a go, but it didn't quite work out for him. Solved this puzzle by memory and learned a dragon shout in the final boss room. I danced with an angry overlord. We went back and forth for a while, but I came out on top. Grabbed the Dragonstone. Fast travelled back to Dragon's Reach and stole some more items. Found some kids which looked like they were bored shitless, so I decided to entertain them. Pickpocketed this ring of minor lockpicking from the Jarl himself. Gave the Dragonstone to Farengar, got interrupted by Lilith, so I punished her by stealing all of her arrows. Got very close and personal with a Whiterun guard. Talked to the Jarl and he gave me a reward, so I showed him what I thought about this. Went into the market district and sold some necklaces from a poor old lady. Arcadia didn't mind me being in her shop past hours, so I used this opportunity to steal some potions. I went to the inn for some entertainment and witnessed a possessed man who quickly snapped back into life. I fumbled whilst trying to steal this mammoth tusk, which made the guards angry. I tried to hide, which failed. I swindled him and then realised there was a man sitting behind me the whole time. So I tried to pickpocket him. He had a really good ring. I failed the first time, tried again, and succeeded. I got a carriage to Solitude, went to the docks, found a strangely positioned goat, did a loop around the docks with a guard chasing me, stole nothing, and then exited. I then proceeded into Solitude, didn't really find anything interesting, but check out this sick MLG 420 quickscope throw with this platter. I took another trip back to the Thieves Guild to sell off my plunder, and then headed towards the Western Watchtower to continue the main quest. Took on a dragon and shot many many arrows before it fell, but at least I did get the final hit. Had dragon soul for dinner, told the Jarl about the events, acquired everyone's favourite slave, stole some arrows from the Whiterun guards. With the reveal of my character being Dragonborn, the Greybeards summoned me, and then it was time to make the journey up to the Greybeards, and then set forth on my journey towards Ivarstead. Nothing eventful happened on my journey, so here's me at Ivarstead. Stole some arrows and made my way up to the Greybeards. I'd already conquered my arachnophobia, so this spider was nothing. This guy looked like he had many arrows, so I went to pickpocket him, just to see that he had none. What a ripoff. Fought an albino saber cat, snuck past an albino troll, and then entered High Hrothgar. Spoke with the Greybeards, demonstrated my Dragonborn abilities, learned how to run faster than Usain Bolt, and got a new quest to retrieve the horn of Jurgen Windcaller. From Solitude, I made my way to the dungeon, and upon reaching the dungeon, everyone just fell down and died outside. I entered the dungeon, third-partied some necromancers, learnt a new shout, solved this puzzle which actually gave me troubles my first time I played this game, fought some spiders, and entered the last room, where the horn was supposed to be, but instead there was a note. The note told me to head to Riverwood. However, upon entering Riverwood, I get stopped by some cultists. I lure them into the inn and take them out with the help of Lydia. I rent the attic room, realise that Skyrim has a thing for secret entrances, speak to Delphine about the Thalmor embassy. Upon exiting the tavern, I come face to face with a group of hired thugs. Luckily, Delphine decided to help. I really wanted to see who sent the hired thugs, but the contract was only take. I then went back to High Hrothgar, gave Uncle Arnie the horn of Jurgen Windcaller, and then witnessed the true power of a Greybeard's rave. I then took a carriage to Windhelm. I then met up with Delphine in Kynesgrove and witnessed Alduin summoning a dragon. After firing a barrage of arrows, I got the final shot off on the dragon and then had dragon soul for dinner again. Delphine told me about a Thalmor party that she wasn't invited to. I went back to Riverwood, stole some steel ingots, and barely upgraded my armor. Delphine was so mad that she wasn't invited that she wanted me to go spy on the party. So I went to Solitude, gave Malborn all of my equipment, and then hopped on the carriage like a little lizard princess. I reluctantly broke my disguise as the stealer of sweet rolls to Elenwen, stitched up Erica with the wood elf servant girl, snuck out from the party through the kitchen and retrieved my beloved stolen gear, zoomed on past all the Thalmor soldiers through the courtyard, and then utilised some of my stolen potions. Rulon Dilly fell asleep on the wall, and I took the items required to continue the quest. I was reunited with the wood elf that I stitched up, so I freed her, learnt of the crazy old man Esbern, Fusro-darred this Thalmor soldier into a really bad headache, and somehow actually managed to save Malborn. I then attempted to slow roast a frost troll, which failed, so I ran for my life. Went back to Delphine and told her that the party wasn't all it was cracked up to be. And here we can see a congregation of the Riften Guards. So I used this opportunity to steal many a steel arrow. I then made my way into the Ratway to search for Esbern, tickled some Thalmor to death, waited a while for Esbern to finally open up his door, told Esbern what's happened in the world since he became a hermit, escorted Esbern out of the Ratway with the help of some Ratway folk, went back to Delphine and Esbern told her she was a meanie, discovered the questionable location where Esbern stores his books. With Esbern now on our side, we needed a new plan. Esbern told me about Skyhaven Temple. At Skyhaven Temple, there was Alduin's Wall. This would give us the answers we needed to defeat Alduin. So, with a new quest, I headed towards Skyhaven Temple. Hired the carriage to Markarth, traversed through the mountainous region, to meet up with Delphine and the old man at a Forsworn camp. This fight took a very long time, and I mean a very long time. Even the dragon felt it dragging on. However, through perseverance and many cups of tea, I took out the dragon and the remaining Forsworn. I made my way into the dungeon which I forgot the name of, lowered a bridge, and cut myself, because being Dragonborn is harder than what people understand. Listened to Ernie and Delphine rabble on about some nerdy stone wall. Told the Greybeards about the nerds, I mean blades. Learnt the Clear Skies shout and made my way up to Party Snacks. Party Snacks unfortunately had no snacks, but he did teach me a fire shout. I then let out the next day hangover from the Thalmor embassy. Asked him about the name of the game. Asked Esbernie where I could find the name of the game. I thought Feralda was just doing neck exercises when I realised there was a dragon. Took out the dragon with the help of Winterhold's garrison of 2. Made my way into the College of Winterhold's library, making sure to stay very quiet. Read some books which told me about the name of the game. Traversed through the snowy regions of northern Skyrim to find Budget Yoda. Discovered Budget Yoda's shack. Budget Yoda taught me the ways of the lexicon and dwarven ruins, so I made my way towards said dwarven ruin. Came across a fugitive which gave me some steel boots of lifting, so I yeeted them straight out of my inventory. Got some target practice on an innocent little goat. With Lydia by my side, I entered the Dwarven Ruin. Ran past all of the enemies as ain't nobody got time for that. Put some much needed skill points into the restoration skill tree. Used my athletic capabilities to bunny hop over these pipes. Wondered what genius thought it would be a bright idea to put some traps on the stairs. Ran past all the blind elves. Out-healed the fire stream, utilised a whirlwind sprint to get ahead of my enemies. After going through a large portion of the dungeon without dying, I got cocky, and then this happened. My next try, I used whirlwind sprint to fly over my enemies like a dragon. Ran past the Centurion, opened the stairway, and headed into Blackreach. Bunny hopped my way through acid trip mushroom land until I reached the Tower of Mazada. Solved the puzzle, transcribed the lexicon, and grabbed myself the name of the game. Went back to party snacks, read the Elder Scroll, and got transported back through time. Learnt the Dragon Ren shout. When I came back to my reality, Outerwind was waiting to greet me. I used Lydia as a meat shield and stood back to shoot my arrows. Legendary difficulty really showed itself here as this fight took a long time. I shot over 150 arrows during this fight, but I kept Outerwind pinned down with Dragon Rend, continued to pepper him with dozens of arrows, and then finally I landed the finishing blow. But Todd wanted to extend Skyrim, so he made Outerwind pull a fast one and run with his tail between his legs. I was running low on arrows, so I went to Markarth to steal some more from the guards. Markarth didn't have enough soldiers, so I did the same thing at Windhelm. Asked Bolgraf if I could trap a dragon on his porch. He wanted the peace treaty with the war first, so I went to Arnie to ask him if he could hold the peace treaty. I travelled to Solitude to speak with General Tullius, and did the same thing but in Windhelm and spoke to Ulfric. I went to leave the Palace of Kings when I noticed a sweet roll, so of course I had to steal it. Told Arnie that I was ready for the peace treaty. Sat through the peace treaty and told Thalmor to get their ass out of there. I favoured no one in the talk as the war had nothing to do with me. With a temporary peace treaty, I headed back to Dragon's Reach. Went out onto the porch, called Odahviing, hit him with Dragon Rend and lured him into the trap. Went to release Odahviing, but the guard wasn't too happy with me, but I told him I was the Thane and then he chilled out. So I released the trap and then rode Odahviing to Skuldafn. Upon reaching Skuldafn, I thought I was strong enough to take on the Draugr, which I was, but I wasn't strong enough to take on a duo of dragons, so I ran past everyone inside. I stood at the door expecting the Draugr to follow me, but they didn't. Cheesed the hell out of these Draugr with my bow. They just couldn't pathfind to me, so I just stood there and peppered away at them. I charged in with my war axe to finish off the rest of them, solved a puzzle and made my way through more Draugr. I was lucky that I was low enough level that only Restless Draugr and normal Draugr spawned. I got hungry, so I sizzled up some Frostbite Spider, made my way further into Skuldafn, taking out more Draugr, and then reaching a very tanky Overlord, which I lured into these fire traps. He got too close, so I shouted at him as loud as I could, took him down and retrieved the Diamond Claw. Inserted the claw into this door. I was back outside now, and I ran past all of the Draugr and jumped straight into the portal. Upon entering the portal, I had a very strange glitch with my restoration spell. Cleared Adwin's vape clouds, met the burliest of Nords, and he challenged me to a duel so I could proceed on past the Dragon Bridge. I tried to Fusrodar him, which failed, so I found a nice spot where I could cheese away with my bow. Made my way across the Dragon Bridge and spoke to Ysgramor inside Sovngarde's Hall. Met up with the 3 warriors from the previous time warp, and they despised Outerwind's vape clouds, so we cleared it out. Outerwind arrived, and this time he had nowhere to escape. This was it, the final battle. I used Dragon Rend to force him to land, and did the only thing I could do, shoot all of my arrows while the 3 warriors distracted him. After a significant battle and many arrows sheathed, Outerwind was weak, and I tried to do an MLG 360 and failed for the final shot. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's how I beat the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim on legendary difficulty with only stolen items. This giant was kind enough to give me a free ticket to Starfield, so I'll see you all there.